Welcome to another episode of the Jobology Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon, and today my guest is the co founder of a new startup app called ActLive. His name is Cody, and he's going to tell us all about why he started the app. He's going to give us some advice on starting our own, and he's going to tell us all about beach tennis. So without further ado, Cody. First, I want to start by saying thank you for being with me today, Cody.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. I'm super pumped about just like what you're doing and sharing insights about all different kind of crafts and career paths. So happy to be here.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. The way we always kind of like to get started, I had mentioned co-founder, but if if I were to see you out and about and be like, "Hey, Cody, what are you up to nowadays?" How would you kind of answer that?
Yeah, I would say I answer it that I'm pretty dedicated to building this company right now. It takes up a lot of my time. So I think it's an accurate kind of representation. I'm a co-founder of ActLive. It's a social fitness application that allows you to organize and join health, wellness, and sports activities in your area.
Nice. Yeah. So I actually downloaded the app right before we got on and I was like checking it out a little bit. I like to do a little minimal research, not so much that I'm doing all the talking because I think that's kind of your job.
Yeah,
But it's really neat. I mean, it's like a whole map set up where you can find like yoga, there's pickleball I saw, hiking trails, all different kinds of things in your area and like other people are doing. So if you're not necessarily feeling going out by yourself, you can kind of get together with a group, meet up with some people, and do it together. Is that kind of what it is?
yeah, exactly. It's just a way to sort of connect people through health, wellness, and sports. So we have all different categories, like you said, that are on there, and it's a two-sided platform. So, if you're looking for something, you can find it, or if you want to create it yourself, you just kind of go on and add it and like share it with your friends.
Nice. So my first question, besides how do you describe what you do, but would be how do you kind of get into that? Like, how do you start an app? I mean, you don't have to necessarily go through the whole coding process and all that necessarily, but like, how do you kind of get involved with that in the beginning?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll kind of break it down into two sections. Like first was just the idea, and then second is like how you actually action on that idea and like build and design software. But um, the idea came to myself and my co-founder, who's my CTO. This was pre-pandemic, so it was about like 20 early stages of 2018, and we were a part of a ton of different health and wellness communities. Like we were kind of health enthusiasts, like you name it, we did it. Like we're part of run
Nice.
clubs, we played volleyball on the weekend, basketballs during the weeknights, like
Like that.
pickleball, yoga, like that was kind of like what our world was surrounded by outside of work. And then pandemic hits and all those things are stripped away, and my co-founder and I are like, we still to this day work in very demanding fields. So I was a strategy consultant and he worked in cybersecurity consulting, and both of those career paths require upwards of like 60 hours a week.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of downtime in those fields necessarily.
Yeah, and so our balance between work and what we like to call play as an adult just got totally out of whack.
Yeah.
And us, like many of others, like you felt the impacts. And as the pandemic subsided, my co-founder and I said, like, let's make this a bit easier to rebuild some of these communities,
Yeah.
and we looked at the alternative options. Like we tried searching for these communities on Eventbrite and Facebook groups and Meetup and some of the alternatives, and the experience sucked. Like it was cluttered, we didn't feel connected to anybody.
Yeah.
It just it wasn't intuitive, and we said let's make it easier.
Right.
And so that was kind of when the idea was born, and fast forward to actually, July of this year, we finally just launched the app. So as you can tell, it actually takes a good amount of time from like conception of an idea into like releasing a product in the market.
Right. So the app again, just as so we can, if somebody missed the little beginning part, it's called Act Lives. You guys can look it up on the App Store. I'm sure it's everywhere. And like again, we kind of mentioned the why of like, hey, we were trying to get something going. There's all these platforms. Let's put it into one easy to access place and find everybody. And then like like do you hire somebody to code the app? Do you code the app? Like how does that kind of work?
Yeah. So my co-founder is the CTO, so he has a little bit more of the technology background, and I come from strategy, so I'm like more of the business side. So he's managed a lot of different like software development projects, and so we said at first we were like, let's try and code this ourselves because we had a little bit of experience, and we quickly realized how complex it was to actually develop the back end of like Google Maps and accessing user generated content, and being able to do all those things without extensive experience and doing those before was
Right.
going to take way too long. So then we said, okay, we're going to outsource like the software development and just manage it very closely. And so then we started looking at different software development shops, and you kind of have like two different options. You can either do it onshore or you can do it offshore.
Gotcha.
And onshore, we looked at a couple options, actually one local to here in LA, and we got a bid, during the pandemic, which was a couple $1 million to build the
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, during the pandemic, like, so you had to realize that there was a huge talent shortage
Hmm.
and there was a lot of demand for mobile app development. And so,
Everybody's trying to make their idea come to life. Yeah.
exactly. So they had a lot of like, sort of just premium ways to upsell people. And so we are like, okay, well, that's not going to work. Then we looked at our offshore options, and we actually found a really like solid product shop called Lean Code, that is part of the Steadynamics group, and they're in Poland.
Oh, cool.
And so my co-founder actually went out to Poland,
Oh,
and
wow.
the team, and we did a ton of work to stay super close to the product, and
Hmm.
make sure that it was capturing like our vision and coming out the way that was going to actually respond and support like our customers needs.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. How do you come up with the name Actlive? Is that, do you have a story behind that? Is it like, hey, we were just sitting around drinking beers one day and popped into our head? How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, not quite something like that though. I mean,
Okay.
so my co-founder's name is Connor, and we were actually sitting like right in this room,
Nice.
and we were filing for our LLC incorporation at the time, and we were like, okay, we have to formalize like what this company is going to be called, and so we just like started writing like names on the whiteboard, and we were like, okay, that name's already taken, or that name's too long, or
Yeah.
that's not really like simplistic enough. And like the core of what we're trying to create is like a platform that makes it easier to live an active lifestyle. And
There you
so
go.
it kind of like came to us. We're like, okay, well, it's like active and living, act live, and it kind of just like somehow came together, and we're like, okay, that's it.
There you go. Done. Yeah, I like that. Like that's kind of what the jobology thing is, that you sit there for a while and you're like, okay, I want to do something about jobs. I want to teach people, I want people to learn. Okay, but okay, jobology at class. Okay, hey, this could kind of work something like this. So yeah, I mean, I totally understand the like brainstorming ideas and trying to come up with the name. That could be sometimes the hardest part. Like you have the idea, but then it's like, what do I call this thing? So yeah, totally get that. Um, is what's your kind of path to that? So, I mean, you said you were in strategy, like a business mindset or business kind of background. But what's your path to kind of getting that? all going? Because like it seems like you're like, we have to get the LLC, we have to do all this. So like was your path just like business school, figure that out through that avenue?
Yeah, so my background was I actually I got my CPA and I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers for a couple years out of school. And um 3 years like into that field, PwC acquired Booz and Company, which was a management slash strategy consulting firm, and they rebranded it into Strategy and
Hmm.
so at the time I had connections with some of the people that were part of that group, and I really pushed super hard to try and transfer into the group because I was one of the only ones without an MBA. Like I'd say the group, 95% of the people typically have an MBA, and I was kind of the outsider. And so I got told no maybe 50 times until one person was like, yeah, let's give you a shot.
Yeah, this kid keeps asking. Golly, all
Yeah.
right,
It's
stop
like, all right, how
asking,
do we
just
get
join.
rid of this
Yeah,
guy?
I guess we could just join it. Have him join
Yeah.
it. That's the best
Yeah.
way.
So they gave me a shot, and the learning curve was super steep. Like I will say, like not having an MBA and going into that world, like
Mhm.
it was difficult. Like my nights, my weekends, like I was sacrificing everything because everything was tough. Like I was doing it for the first time and I didn't know how to do it. It was taking longer than I expected. And then
Mhm.
um I eventually figured it out and progressed pretty well, but it gave me some really cool skill sets. So, our group focuses on any type of strategic problems to the C-suite, in which, their management team can't technically solve it. They tried to solve it, or they want like an outside in kind of perspective on
Right.
this kind of problem that they're trying to solve. And it could be launching like a new product or service into the market. It could
Okay.
be predicting like consumer behavior 10 years in the future. It could be, you know, uh, looking at like different target companies that they may want to acquire for synergies. Like, the problems are pretty vast, and
Mhm.
that's like kind of the cool part about the group that I'm in is, we help with like a bunch of what we like to call just like unstructured and ambiguous like type problems that have multiple answers, and we use like hypothesis driven approaches, usually
Nice.
that backed on data to like inform a company on like what is the best decision to make. And
Gotcha.
I was fortunate enough to get the experience of how to launch a new product or service into the marketplace. And then I was like, okay, well, over the pandemic, I have the skill set, but I'm really passionate about this area. Why don't I use it to my advantage?
Yeah, use it for yourself instead of for somebody else.
Yeah.
Totally like that. Yeah, it's like I feel like a lot of times companies can be insular and go, we don't want, outside perspective or you guys don't know, but it's like sometimes it's like, well, no, you guys have already heard all the ideas in the room. How about hearing some ideas from outside the room? So yeah, get that. That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, so when you're kind of, you can maybe this could be two-part question. You can have a better idea on this than I will. But
Yeah.
when you're kind of starting the app versus once it's up and running, what is your average day kind of look like? So, I know like, is it, hey, I wake up and I just start trying to get this thing going? Is it more like trying to get it like social media? Like what is kind of your average day kind of look like right now?
Yeah, so it's super interesting, and as I launched the company, I actually took a sabbatical from my strategy consulting job to be fully dedicated to
Nice.
launching Acliv, and it was the very first time in which like my schedule was completely open and I had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
I said I was supposed to do,
All
and
right.
it was weird. Like I didn't really know how to structure my time.
Hmm.
And I actually if anyone's like into circadian rhythms,
Okay.
I, I looked deep into that and figured out like what my circadian rhythm was.
Like sleep patterns, stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
it's sleep patterns and like different sleep like chronotypes, and then it translates into what types of activities you should be doing throughout the day. And so
Oh,
I'm
interesting.
considered what they call a bear. And that,
Okay.
like, I go to bed at 11, wake up at 7,
Mm.
and morning time, like 7 to about like 12, is when I do like most of my strategic thinking. Like if I have any complex problems or like difficult things to solve, I like save it for that time window. Like I'm not
Nice.
checking like emails or doing anything that's more like transactional. And then like later on in the day is when I'll get to more tactical or transactional type of work.
So you kind
So
of like took that strategy thing and applied it to your own self, and we're like, okay, how can I be strategic, in my kind of planning out my day? And so knowing that, hey, I'm most active in this kind of window, that's, yeah, I think that could be very helpful. And then knowing like, okay, this is the window where I just can respond to emails, knock things out, boom, 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 but it's not necessarily my creative window.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then I think in terms of like the priorities and what I'm focused on, if I were to rewind like a couple months ago, pre-launch, it
Yeah.
was really around managing the software development team like to the T to make sure that the app was going to be ready for launch with like minimal bugs and
Yeah.
the most amount of the features that like fit our budget. Like we candidly, like, we went over budget on the development of the MVP, and that's super common. So if
Yeah.
you are estimating what you're going to build, like, just estimate it's going to go over, because you can't like typically predict all of the underlying complexities sometimes of software development, and like it just takes time. So like almost estimate the buffer to go over.
Yeah, price estimation's tough. We had somebody who started their own catering business on last week, and they kind of said the same thing. Like the hardest thing is figuring out like how much to buy, how much to, put away for different things. So I get, yeah, like if you're gonna, you're starting something from scratch, so who knows in the end what it's gonna end up costing. You can estimate it out the best, but you estimate a buffer.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
that was like the priority, was like, hey, let's like just make sure that this app is fully functional, ready to go, and we have like everything in line for our launch, which meant like we had a press release out. We had like an Instagram presence. We had like a lead list of everybody that said they were interested in our app and like wanted to be notified once it was launched. We had like a list of potential, what we call champions, but these are like the organizers of our app. So it's like the supply side, the person who's hosting pickleball, hosting a run, like
Gotcha.
had like the list of who we were going to reach out to. So it was a lot of like the planning, so that when we were communicating like July 9th, like our app will be live, that like everything was in place,
Right.
and you could sort of see it as like, okay, cool, like I can use it, it's functional, everything about it is like ready to go, and it wasn't like
Yeah.
more of a soft launch. So that was the priority a couple months ago.
Nice. And then if I were to kind of look at what your average day looks like right now, is it similar to that, very different, or like, what is like today, for example, what does that look like? You get up and you do what?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm working like two, sometimes maybe
Oh,
more jobs.
oh wow.
So
I can barely do one.
yeah, I'm currently a strategy consultant.
Okay.
So that is sort of my like full-time job. So like
Gotcha.
I woke up and I was in back-to-back meetings with my clients from maybe like 7 a.m. to about like 2:30 p.m. Like, because
Wow.
it's a little bit easier on a Friday. And then
Okay.
quickly like shifting gears to Akliv, and our priorities right now are helping to build like the supply side of our platform.
Reaching out to like different, I don't know, gyms might not be the right word, but different groups that are already doing things.
Yeah, exactly. Just anyone that's interested in organizing something on Akliv.
Okay.
And we're taking a kind of similar rollout to Uber, in terms of how they launched. So they focused on like select markets as an
Hmm.
example. Like they launched in San Francisco and they paid drivers with no passengers as an example, like just to
Okay.
have the supply side.
Hmm.
And we're doing similar stuff where we just launched in select markets. So like we've only done LA, San Diego, and Boston. And
Nice.
we're doing everything possible to like support organizers to continue to like, post on our app. And we're not necessarily paying them, but we're like helping when with like marketing,
Yeah.
branding, um, you know, just different like strategic ways that we can help grow their business and doing everything possible for them to like feel a sense of a partnership of, okay, well, if I post something on Aclive, like I'm getting more than just a software to host my events. Like I'm getting kind of a team to help me.
Yeah, and you get the eyeballs of the people that are downloading the app to be like, "Oh, this seems cool. This seems interesting," and then you can parlay that into different events or different monetary gains, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Um, how do you make money with an app? Like, how do you make income with this? How do you get this? Is it advertising? Is it I want to get it to a certain point and then we sell it? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so we do generate revenue today.
Nice.
We so right now our business model is a transaction fee. So
Okay.
we have Stripe and you can accept payments in our apps. We have a payment processing system. So you can go on and you can host like a paid event or like some sort of charity event or whatever it is, but like it requires payment in order to sign up for the event.
Okay.
You take a 3.5% transaction fee.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
it's passed on to the attendee. So let's say you host an event and you're hosting like a basketball tournament, $20 to sign up.
Got
I
it.
would go and I would pay $20 plus a 3.5% services fee.
Okay, gotcha.
And the 3.5 goes to Aclive and then you get the $20. So like as the organizer, you're like, wow, this is completely free, cool software. Like I see 100% of my revenue, like no downside.
Right. Oh, I like that because so it's not the 3.5 coming out of my 20. It's just
Yeah.
the additional. Nice. Okay. That's good. I like that. Man, this is I like don't see the downside to this. This sounds awesome. Like for everyone involved. I mean, it gets the user more more activities they can do, more outings, chance to meet people, chance to
Yeah.
network, and then it gets the organizers more eyeballs, more people coming in, more revenue coming in. That's great. Um, have you like seen on your own side any like so one of the things, let me kind of refresh this. One of the things we talk about a lot here is like perks and benefits of a job, obviously. I'm sure when you're starting up a thing, medical, dental, all that is maybe down the line, not necessarily right. So if you have your own job and you got your own benefits from that, that's great. But have you seen any like hidden benefits, hidden perks that maybe you didn't think of, like either you learn of a new event or you learn of a new sport or something like that for you personally?
Yeah, I think, I mean, two things. The first would be just the skills of launching a company. I mean,
Yeah.
in its simplistic form, people are typically overlooking some of the complexities like it takes to launch a company. And like you need to know accounting, you need to know legal, you need to know product management, you need to know marketing, you need to know sales. You have to like know all of these things or learn them very quickly if you
Right.
want to succeed.
Yeah.
And so from the skill set, it was like drinking it through a fire hose, but now wait, I feel like I could turn around and launch another company pretty fastly. Like
Nice.
so the skill set is one that I definitely overlooked. And then the second, and this may be more towards the nature of what our platform does, but my like community and my network has like probably 10x since
Jeez.
I've launched the company.
Okay.
And it's kind of just by the nature of what we do. Like
Right.
as we're trying to grow this platform, we're going and we're participating in these health, wellness, and sports communities. And we're doing all these new activities. Like I'm playing beach tennis and
Beach tennis?
yeah,
I've never even heard of beach tennis. Okay.
so beach tennis is like by far my favorite sport right now.
What? Okay.
It's it actually started
Nice.
in Brazil, and it's it's played with like a paddle racket,
Okay.
a little bit of like a deflated tennis ball. Then obviously it's played on the sand,
Sure.
so same size as a volleyball court, except the net is like 6 feet high.
Okay.
And obviously ball doesn't bounce like it would in tennis, like you're hitting
That's
it.
why I said when I was like beach tennis, this doesn't
Yeah,
compute. But
yeah,
okay. So is it like beach, like a combination of tennis and badminton then at that point? Like you got to keep it in
yes,
the air? Okay.
exactly. Yeah, played 2v2. Scoring is the same as 10. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, that sounds fun. See, now I'm like, man, so I rolled my ankle like a couple weeks ago, pretty bad, like fell down some stairs. It was a whole scene. But don't
Yeah, don't recommend falling downstairs. Yeah.
no, yeah, and don't drink and then walk downstairs at night outside. It doesn't end well. So but once the ankle's healed, I would love to get onto that. That sounds fun.
Yeah, super good for the joints too. Like, low impact on the beach. But
I am getting older.
yeah, like those types of just like communities and activities that I would have never have had access or experienced before is like part of my daily routine. Like I try and go and do one of those activities like once a day to go and like immerse myself in these communities and find out how ACLIP can help.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of like the, business and fun, business and play, work and play
Right.
at the same time. Like, yeah, I mean, doesn't really feel like work when you're enjoying it so much, but it's also like, hey, just so you know, the way I found this is through this. Like yeah,
Exactly.
totally. Okay, I
Yeah,
like that. That's
exactly.
awesome. How does like the hierarchy work at the app? So you said you're the co-founder, you have another co-founder, and then do you have like a team under you guys? Do you have like you mentioned San Diego, Boston, LA. Do you have like teams in those areas? Like how does that all work?
Yeah, so the team is still pretty small, like in these early stages. Like we're going to be raising some capital, and then we'll kind of formalize like exact roles that we're building out. But
Shark Tank?
yeah, Shark Tank. Yeah, we actually did apply to Shark Tank.
See? Oh, there you go. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Um, but so yeah, so I'm CEO, co-founder. We have CTO who's a co-founder, and then we have a head of community who's out in like the Boston, Washington DC area. Then we have somebody that's helping us part-time on social media. And then we have another person who's helping us with like partnerships part-time that's here in LA. But the crazy part is like nobody is running the company full time. Like even both co-founders, everyone is like doing this on a part-time basis, which is just it's crazy to see even like the progress we've been able to make as like everybody is doing it part-time.
Yeah. Is the goal to eventually everyone have quit their jobs and just do act live full time?
Yeah, that's why we want to raise some capital. So we do that.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. That seems like a pretty fun job to have. Like, oh yeah, I get to go out and play sports and do all these fun things, and like that's my job and get paid for it. Like, well, that sounds pretty awesome.
I mean, it's funny when you say it like that because like Connor and I, my co-founder, we grew up, that was our life,
Yeah.
like we had a basketball court in our living room that like my parents hated, but like
Yeah.
that was how we like hung out and had fun, and that was like our life is like we just hung out and we played sports and we played games, and now we're like trying to create a company around it, which is pretty cool.
Dude, that was so mine was I like to talk to people. I talk a lot. What can I do to figure out a way to put this to good use? And here we are.
Yeah.
But I totally get that. Like me and my brother are playing wiffle ball out in the front yard. We got the basketball hoop. Yeah, I mean, if you can figure out a way to make that your day-to-day job, it'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then on the side, like, oh, I'm also trying to join the app, check out this, try about partnerships. But again, if you're already like that and you like to sell, you like to talk to people, then they kind of go hand in hand in that at that point.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
if you were talking to somebody that was about to start an app, whether it be, an app, a lifestyle app, or I don't know, a gaming app or anything, just but an app in general, what do you have any piece of advice that you would be like, your day one starting, here's a good piece of advice to go with?
Yeah. So I think my three pieces that I picked up so far have been one, narrow your scope and continue to narrow your scope.
Okay.
I think a lot of the times, we got caught a ton of different times on like trying to sort of boil the ocean with like a lot of our feature set and the problems we were trying to solve. And, just always continue to narrow your scope on like what you're solving for. You could have really cool ideas like down the road, but start really, really small and just address one thing and then, build on it over time.
Kind of like that ripple effect, like when you drop, start with the little small one, then get bigger and bigger and bigger instead of trying to go big and pare down. That doesn't, yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And then the second one I would say is be ready to like sort of bastardize your product super early just to try and get it into the hands of customers. So
Meaning,
meaning like in our case, we were trying to develop a mobile app, right? Which takes a lot of time. It's very complex. You have to go through a lot of work in order to accomplish that. But is there something that you can do using like low code, no code solutions that maybe don't require any software development?
gotcha.
You can put together this like beta or like prototype version and just like get it into the hands of somebody and say, like, do you like this? Like, what don't you like about it? Would you pay for it? Like just
Yeah, like, okay, I got what you're saying. Like, hey, you can have the great idea, you can have it all deep detailed down, but then when it comes to actually putting pen to paper, for lack of a better term, putting code to software, then, you know, maybe test market, run tests on it, talk to some people, see if they what they think of it.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And then the third is just be ready to pivot.
Ooh,
Because your idea, if it's going to succeed, will likely be like the fourth or fifth product iteration of your initial idea. So, as an example, Facebook started as a face match where
yeah.
you just like looked at two people's photos and you said which one was hotter,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yep.
look what Facebook is today.
Right.
Instagram's another example. Like they were a check-in app where you would like go to certain locations and you would like drop a pin and then post a photo and you're like, I was at this location. Here's a photo. It was very different than like its social elements that it has today. And
Yep.
so just know that like whatever you're creating, if you're creating it well and responding to like your customers, it's gonna look super different than what you initially started.
Right. Yeah. Be willing to kind of like, you might think you have the world's greatest idea,
Yeah.
but be willing to, make a change or, take advice from an outside source as opposed to, nope, I know what it is, tunnel vision, like just,
Exactly.
okay. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's great piece of advice, man. That's awesome. Now kind of going to your specific journey, and I mean these might be the same, they might be different, but is there something you would tell, Cody day one, knowing what you know now, like give yourself a piece of advice on your own specific journey?
Yeah. I guess the one thing I would say we kind of learned a little bit of the hard way was in order to get to like your first 1,000, like we call them community members because we don't see them as like users per se. They're like community, members. But in order to get to those, you have to do non-scalable activities, and then
Okay.
you do scalable activities to get to 1,000 and beyond.
Okay. What would like a non-scalable activity versus scalable activity be?
So like we printed out flyers and went like door to door. We printed out flyers and like walked miles on the beach and like handed out, flyers about our launch event in LA. We like set up like just like posters on like all the basketball courts. The like we sent a text message to like every single person in our phone. We did like these just weird non-scalable things to try and like get outreach.
Right.
We would set up like a tent like on the boardwalk in LA and like partner with beverage brands and give out free drinks if somebody downloaded our app.
Nice.
We did these like really just kind of creative, non-scalable things to try and get a little bit of momentum.
Yeah.
And
Get that initial traction.
yeah, and the like the funny part was is we tried the scalable things up front. Like we paid for Instagram ads, we paid for Google display ads, we created a commercial and like put it on YouTube for like YouTube ads. And what we found out was that when somebody found us through a paid advertisement and then downloaded Akliv, they weren't very engaged. And the reason is there's like still a societal norm around our platform of what we're creating. Like Uber wanted you to get into a stranger's car, like Airbnb a stranger's home. Like we're
Hmm.
sort of like put your activity out there for strangers to join.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so there was like this little bit of, well, I don't want to do that unless I know somebody else that's also going.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. A lot of people don't have that, motivation to go do something if they're going to put themselves out there by themselves.
Right, right. And so we just were like, okay, well, we got to do the non-scalable stuff, like in order to create this more organically upfront, so that one, the network is really tight in the beginning. People know each other. Like we're creating what we call is like the seven principles of belonging for our community, so that they feel connected.
Cool. That's awesome. I kind of going through the same thing with starting a podcast. That makes sense of like, you know, texting everybody in your phone, reaching out to everybody on Instagram. But yeah, the like actually going out and making people download it. Like, let me see your phone. Open your phone. Download the thing.
Let
Yeah,
me see your phone.
totally. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Totally. I totally understand that.
yeah.
Um, trying to think how I want to phrase the question, but when you're like when you're first starting out, how do you like overcome that? I don't know, maybe it's just for me, maybe it's for others out there, but like you overcome that like awkwardness of, or that worry of like somebody being like, no, like I don't want to download your thing. You know what I mean? Because that crushes me sometimes where I'm like, oh, just subscribe. It's so easy. It's free. And they're like, no. And I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is like sometimes it's discouraging, like because a lot of what you have to do is you have to hear that a lot. It's not just like every now and then you kind of have to get hit with the no like over
Yeah.
and over again. And that could be a little draining. But I think for me, what has helped is I truly believe in the impact that Akliv can have on people's lives. And so it's less about me going and trying to like sell somebody on something that I don't think is going to benefit them in any way. It's like,
Right.
look, I think you're going to have a tighter like connection with people who are going to give you access to living a healthier lifestyle, and you as a result will be healthier and happier the more and
Yeah.
more you use Akliv. And so from that standpoint, it's like, sure, I can get told no all the time, like, but I know it was the right thing to do. Like it is truly like something, a product that can help. So
That makes sense. Yeah, because yeah, I get that. Cause when you're doing something, also it's like, hey, you're doing things that you like, and all these other people are doing the same thing that you like also. So it's, you're not just throwing yourself out there onto something that, you're not a fan of yourself. So yeah, I get that. That makes sense. Um, that's about it that I have for you. I mean, we got one little more section to get to, but before we get there, one of the things I always like to ask is Is there something that you feel like either I should have asked, I didn't ask, you wanted me to ask, or that you think, hey, this would be useful for the viewer to know?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing we, didn't necessarily touch on is just launching a company like is hard. And there's a lot of reasons why, people don't do it because it's hard, it's capital intensive, that you're very likely to fail.
Time
Um,
intensive?
yeah, time intensive. And all of my like experiences to date, and like we're by no means like super successful, but we're still alive, so like there's that. Just the learning experience alone, and looking back like on my life and not regretting the decision of like, wow, I had this opportunity to do something but I didn't, like I don't think I would have been able to sit with that. And so,
Yeah.
for those reasons, like just anyone that is out there that is like thinking about doing something, and you're hesitant because of the risk that you're going to have to take, like almost go into it with, if you fail, you still will not regret that decision. Like you'll be able to look back on your life and be like, I went for that. Like that was a really cool learning experience. And as a result, like it helped me do whatever else you're going to do afterwards. But like go and fail, go and do it. Like there's no reason that you shouldn't.
Right. I think that if you're going to either regret going for something and trying it and it doesn't work versus never trying the thing, I'd rather regret the going for trying it and maybe it didn't work than the regret of like, man, what could have been? Like, I
Yeah,
think I
100%.
totally agree. The last bit we have here is I like to give my guests some time to either promote a business that they have or, something they're working on, a side business, a cause, a charity, something that they're passionate about. And also, where we can find Act Live and where we can maybe even find you, Cody, out and about, at these events. So here's your time.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I mean, thanks for everybody for tuning in. You can find ACLIV on the iOS App Store as well as Android. You can follow us on Instagram or TikTok at the ACLIV app. And feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram or anything. Would love to connect with anyone. And we're based in Southern California right now, so a lot of ACLIV events. You'll catch us in LA and in San Diego right now.
Awesome, man. We will, if you guys are listening and not, at a spot where you can maybe get to the YouTube right now, we will put everything in the show notes. So we'll have, the Act Live app link. We'll have, all the different Cody's LinkedIn. We'll have all the different, Instagram, Facebook, all that social media. So you guys can find it all there quickly if you need to. But I just want to again take this time to say thank you. I appreciate you coming on, man, and actually educating me on a lot of things that I'm like, okay, now I got to go do this to get Jobology to the top.
Yeah, I'll just wait for the Topology app to launch. So let me know.
Nice, thanks, brother. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Jobology podcast, and thank you, Cody, for taking the time out of your day to do that for me. Before I let you guys go, a couple quick reminders. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and follow at Jobology Podcast on all major social media platforms. And please make sure you guys are commenting on YouTube what jobs you'd like to see next. Like we say to end every episode, make good choices.